So, as someone who has been toe to toe with fact checkers for years already, what was the final push that convinced you that discussing the liberal control of the fact checking industry would make a good idea for your next book?
Well, it's one of those things where it's just many years of annoyances where it ranges from, posting a tongue-in-cheek internet meme to Facebook and then getting my account restricted for getting, a thing. The biggest one was because I managed Dan Bongino's Facebook, and they used to the New York Times, or not at the Times, but some writer from the Times would publish every day like the top performing Facebook pages. And Dan's would routinely, like links from his page would routinely be the most viewed. And that made his page a target for these fact checkers. And the way it works is Facebook, I think formerly Twitter, not anymore, but mainly Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
will partner with all these various so-called fact-checking groups, and they are the de facto arbiters of truth. And if they see anything they don't like, they have the authority to attach a fact check to it. Now you might say, okay, what's the big deal? Okay, they put a little note under your post. No one believes it anyway. Well, that is true. Most people make fun of those kinds of warnings, but what it does is it restricts your page in that Facebook has an algorithm, and if you have 1 million followers, their algorithm will never put your posts in 1 million people's feeds. It might be 5%, it might be 10%. It's a very small percent.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you get a fact check, at least for a few months, they dial back that percent. And not only that, they'll reduce monetization you get on videos you upload, because Dan uploads videos from his podcast. So it can cost you, and I can't say dollar amounts, but significant amounts of money, especially if you are wealthy. I mean, I think Candace Owens sued for damages in the tens of thousands when her page was restricted only for a few days. So it has an impact there. But then it became personal, because in addition to all of that, I wrote an article, a very humbly written article. Everything's humble today. And it was on this topic of congressional representation and illegal immigration. And the way it works in our country, and I think this is a flawed system, is representation is, in the House, is dependent on population, which that's not the problem. But the problem is A, illegal immigrants, and B, legal resident non-citizens. So people who are here to work or are in the process of becoming legal are added in the population. And that increases representation in Congress. And well, guess what? Blue states have the most illegal immigrants and the most of the other category. So blue states get more representation in the House as a result. So I wrote an article. I was citing a study from the Center for Immigration Studies, and to see like what is the extent of this overrepresentation. And it's pretty straightforward to calculate. You look at how many, what the representatives per population are. You figure out their excess population. It ain't rocket science.
Right.
I might be a little off the numbers in my head. I'm doing this from memory, but I think the estimate was like 4 or 5 extra seats California had due to illegal immigration and other non-legal citizens. And PolitiFact came back to me with, no, that's actually false. It might be only 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, that's mostly true. And B, they didn't show their work. They just emailed some professor whose opinion was it doesn't sound right, it might be lower.